What's up? I'm gonna read from this book, Lavabo and the Key of Energy. Before I do that, I'm gonna spark up a libation to the forces of literature. Obeisance. So, in this deal, this faucet detective, as you've seen, and all he knows is that Saundra is the weather. When he looks up the weather, sees the clouds, feels the wind, the rain, all that stuff, the sun, it has a personality. The weather has a personality, and he always just calls it Saundra. And it's this blonde woman that he has in his mind. He's on this case trying to find this guy, Mr. Fan, and the orthographer and all these guys. So check it out. Who is Mr. Fan? Who is Mr. Foss? Where's the orthographer? Who is Saundra? Why, she is the weather. The lost, forlorn weather storming on the horizon, upturned in hurly-burly whirls and pearls and sighs by the sharpest minds. This climate in which one finds tempest and hemp-colored clouds and loud thunder smack back and forth in a latitudinal volley between halo and radical hemisphere, when Saundra, in great gusts of her pink lungs virginal, and pink lungs flung afar in great blasts of roar and repast, psychedelic on the air frenetic, peripatetic, rangy, mangy hoarfrost and lost flutes of ruined wind suspended between the sky and the haggard earth in savage upturn in relation to the fulcrum in the mind stationed in the central aphasias of Saundra's least utterance. This weather, this woman, with cheeks exploding open in rubicund apple peel and with juices remotely fetched from the spinning obelisk that produces fruit too, in the way it moves in its groove, spitting prunes in high remove from the thrashing unknown, whose grody clone holds it down. The arctic renown of stars suicidal, of stars languishing in the shivering expanse of invalid-like, the great black deathbed stretching from horizon to horizon, as Saundra sends lunatic gales and hails of zipping air in collapsing staircases of wind and blast, creating great succotash of catastrophe, slurping the antifreeze from the lees of leaking being, the sink of things swirling around this burly notion that the commotion in the clouds is actually a riotous young woman crying out loud. Saundra, schizoid, in throat flush with all the thrush and croupy a cappella, like a concerto for firefly and collapsed lung, the fungus of time wisening beneath the halogens of the mastodon ponderousness of certain obese freaks in mad interloping and floating gusts rusting the air in square visions, cubes of undoing, ruining the mood of certain twilights like this. And I'll be dogged if that slogging riot of pious color, worshipping the dawn from afar in this crepuscular doom, gloom, groomed to all the ruinous fruition, position between heaven and hell, in this embezzled corporation called the manifestation of man on the scene. This riot of color, I say, in lucid interplay with clouds and mounded substance, redundant to a sky wizened by the 10 trillion conniptions of an afternoon in October, suffused in sober light of fructifying intoxication, the inebriation of light making itself known by the moaning sound going around like the flu in the humid shadows of rainy dusts, musk heavy on the burdened air, the rarefied plumes of this groom of the dawn, dust moribund light, being the marvelous dress of the peacock obelisk called consciousness in its manifold forms, and Saundra's least utterance, the stirring of a zephyr stillborn on the limpid air in gentle contusion, this miracle of hysterical leaves in dust and scatter, in this matter bath called the world around, impaled on the blade of the human gaze. Such a rainy day as that can happen in a nanosecond, it seems, for Saundra's meandering through the heavens of bunt-cake leaven, giving rise to a sky impregnable to light and sound, For the void is not concussed when walloped, nor does it croon moodily when some gorgeous beam of sunlight spears it in an orgiastic thrust in complex incised dagger-like in its likeness to certain rays spade by the emasculating blade of the void which only nullifies. And Saundra blows in furies of immaculate glow and gale, sending frail doilies of frenetic shadow moiling in hells of shade and subtle impression, some little spot on the sidewalk being the scene in which all my sensibilities, willy-nilly, fray into splayed ends of forensic thinking. That is to say, that when Saundra in ferocious tantrum, sputtering out into some gentle breeze blowing, her fury dwindling down to this little impotent puff of air moving about in clowning fun of autumnal leaves in an ecstatic death frolic like an alcoholic dancing alone as his liver rots in its sockets deep in the body moribund, deep in the tissue octoroon, and what soft loads of baleful air in bright lattice malice chastising the high-rise atmosphere, existing skittishly in little pockets here and there, in shadowed corners, in entryways no one pays attention to, the rueful bone of light laid down on the air with diplodocus heaviness and yet utterly weightless none the same, the brain of being vivisected in the form of this enormous mass of fantastic lightness fried to a golden roast in boasting braggadocio, moxied with Saundra's hothouse breath, the monstrous exhalations of her body in exotic bluster, mustering all the inexorable power latent in torso, ever gusty with mighty storm, exhausting itself in pelting rain. I'll cut off there and make a video number 2. Mark that spot.